to Newsday. Let's get some more on our breaking news out of the United States. I'm joined by Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cyprus University. Peter, thanks for joining me. The House has just passed a bill to end the shutdown. So how likely is this to get support from the Senate and the President?
Not very likely, because the House did not include the $5 billion President Trump wanted for the wall, which is an impossible request as far as the Democrats are concerned. And they lead the House with 38 or 40 seats. They swept 40 seats in the election, showing how the public stands on this issue and other issues as well. So it's very unlikely that it would pass the Senate or that the President will sign it.
Now, President Trump has already blamed the Democrats in the Senate for the shutdown. How is the public in America seeing this standoff?
Well, they're very concerned about it. In fact, the people who are working for the government are in real bad shape right now, because about 800,000 of them were either furloughed with no pay or were asked to work with no pay. And that's very tough on them. They couldn't pay their rent. Some of them couldn't make their house payments. One woman couldn't even pay for her wedding. That was very sad, government employees. But the American people as a whole are very concerned about this gridlock in this sense and a lack of movement on something like the wall. By the way, the wall is opposed by 56% of the American voters, by the way. The border wall.
So when is this stalemate going to end?
We all hope it's going to be soon, and we hope that cooler heads can prevail and some sort of compromise. But the key is it's a principle issue here, and Democrats, other people in the country, the majority of America, don't want to see a big wall built between these two friendly countries, when the wall will not solve the problem of unfair trade and the fact that there's low wages in Mexico and people coming here for jobs and for looking for a better life. That won't solve it, and something else has to be done, like raising wages in Mexico and having a fair trade model. And that's what the American people want. They want to make sure there's jobs on both sides of the border, and the wall will not do it. So President Trump may have to back down in the end. Let's see what happens. He cannot win this time. He couldn't win in the fall even with a Republican majority. He couldn't get money for the wall. So it should be very interesting how this thing's worked out as a compromise, if anything at all.
Yeah, it's definitely one we'll be watching. Now, also today we've seen Nancy Pelosi take charge of the House, and of course she's already gotten straight to work with this bill being introduced. What's her agenda?
Her agenda is to ensure that there are other kinds of progressive policies pushed through. She won't be as progressive as someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who just got elected in New York on a democratic socialist platform. But Nancy's more or less a liberal, moderate to liberal Democrat, and she wants things like affordable education, health care for all. I believe the Democrats in Congress are pushing for complete universal health care. The majority support a single-payer health care system like Medicare for all, and they'll be pushing for that, and Nancy will have to give in on some of those demands, including college tuition, affordable education, or tuition-free education, and jobs. She's going to focus on a jobs issue, maybe a public sector infrastructure bill that'll really be able to push into public sector jobs, like rebuilding our roads and our bridges and putting people to work, and green technology. It's a big issue, by the way. The Green New Deal put forth by Ocasio-Cortez is something that the liberal left and progressive left want in the House, but some of the more corporate Democrats or moderate Democrats don't really want to go that far. But that Green New Deal is very important, and she did agree to put up a committee, a select committee on climate change. That's also a very important issue.
Now, you mentioned progressives there. We do have a new Congress, of course, following the midterms. It is much more diverse than the previous one. So is it likely to be more progressive?
Yes, that'll play a role, because the diversity will bring about a greater amount of progressive ideas. And the diversity is such that there are over 100 women in Congress now, and many people of color and of both genders. And it's very interesting to see how this will play out, because it tends to be that many of the people who are in the ethnic and racial minorities are more progressive on political, economic issues, social justice issues. And this will push the country in that direction, along with many progressive white Americans who are also supporting members of Congress as Democrats. People like Bernie Sanders in the Senate, for example, and other people in the House that are progressive, like Ocasio-Cortez and Ro Khanna from California. These people really want to have a complete social democratic type agenda, something like you have in Australia, where you have health care for everyone guaranteed. You have a lot of help for students in college. I'm not even sure. Maybe you have tuition-free education there. Do you have tuition-free education in Australia? I think you might have that. Not sure, but I know other countries have it. For sure, for example, in Europe, they have it. So people are pushing here, and the young people are voting in droves. They're the ones who put the Democrats in the majority, most of the young millennial generation. It's going to be very interesting.
It will be very interesting to watch indeed, and it certainly seems like it's already kicking off. We will stay in touch. Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cyprus University, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Well,